99 missed calls. That's what it took to break a silence that had lasted for years. I thought I'd lost my son forever, until his name lit up my phone. It started with just 4 words. Dad. Need to talk. That message hit harder than any argument we ever had. For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. I stared at my phone, heart pounding, hands shaking. Could this really be happening? After all this time? His name felt like a ghost, something I hadn't dared speak out loud in years. And now it was staring back at me, glowing on the screen, like a hand reaching across a chasm I thought could never be crossed. The message read, Dad, need to talk. Just that. 4 simple words, yet they held the weight of a lifetime. My heart, a weary old drum, began to pound a frantic rhythm against my ribs. Shock, pure and unadulterated shock, washed over me, followed swiftly by a tide of confusion. What did he want? What could he possibly want after all this time? And then, a flicker. A tiny, hesitant spark of hope, fragile as a butterfly's wing. Could this be it? Could this simple, almost careless text message be the bridge across the gulf of years? The possibility hung in the air, shimmering, almost too beautiful to be real. It felt like a lifeline thrown to a drowning man, a chance to finally right the wrongs of the past, a possibility of a reconciliation I'd almost given up on. The weight of those years, the burden of unspoken words, suddenly felt a little lighter. The silence, though still present, no longer felt quite so deafening. My hand trembled as I reached for my glasses, the cheap plastic frames digging into my temples. The text message stared back at me, mockingly simple in its brevity. Dad, need to talk. Need to talk. The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken implications. What did he need to talk about? An apology, a request for money, or something far worse? My mind raced, conjuring up a whirlwind of possibilities, each more unsettling than the last. I paced the worn rug, my old bones protesting with every creak and groan. 75 years of life lessons, of hard-won wisdom, seemed to evaporate in the face of this unexpected communication. My carefully constructed world, the quiet routine I'd built around my solitude, felt threatened. The years of silence, the carefully erected walls of protection, were suddenly crumbling. Vulnerability. It was a feeling I hadn't allowed myself to experience in a long time. The years of estrangement had hardened me, built a shell around my heart that I thought was impenetrable. But the text message, that simple, 4-word message, had breached those defenses. It had cracked the shell, exposing the raw, aching vulnerability beneath. Fear mingled with hope, a bitter cocktail of anticipation and dread. I tried to rationalize it, to dissect the message, to find a logical explanation, but logic failed me. This wasn't a business transaction. This was my son. My son, who had vanished from my life, leaving behind a gaping hole that no amount of time could fully fill. The uncertainty gnawed at me, a persistent, unsettling itch I couldn't scratch. What if this was a trap? What if this was just another attempt to hurt me? The questions tumbled over each other, threatening to overwhelm me. Yet beneath the fear, a faint ember of hope continued to glow, a hope that maybe, just maybe, this was a chance for something better, a chance for healing, a chance for reconciliation. The hours that followed felt like an eternity. Each tick of the grandfather clock in the hall seemed to amplify the silence, turning it into a tangible thing, a heavy weight pressing down on my chest. I tried to occupy myself. I read the newspaper twice, meticulously scrutinizing every word as if it held the key to understanding my son's cryptic message. I watered the plants, their silent green leaves offering little solace. I even attempted a crossword puzzle, but the letters blurred before my eyes, each square a mocking reminder of the unanswered questions swirling in my mind. My phone became an extension of my arm, a constant companion I clutched with a white-knuckle grip. I checked for new messages obsessively, refreshing the screen every few minutes, only to be met with the same stark emptiness. The anticipation was a physical ache, a constant hum of anxiety that vibrated through my bones. The silence, once a comfortable blanket, had transformed into a suffocating shroud. Memories, like unwelcome guests, began to intrude, fragments of the past, Laughter, arguments, shared moments of joy and sorrow flooded my consciousness. I saw Daniel as a boy, his bright eyes full of mischief and wonder. I remembered his graduation, his wedding, the birth of his children, events I'd missed, events that now felt like gaping wounds in the fabric of my life. The weight of those missed moments pressed down on me, heavier than any physical burden. The regrets piled up, a mountain of unspoken words and missed opportunities. What if I had been a better father? What if I had handled things differently? The what-ifs echoed in my head, a relentless chorus of self-recrimination. Yet even amidst this torrent of self-doubt, a tiny spark of hope persisted. It was a flickering flame, easily extinguished, but stubbornly refusing to be snuffed out completely. It was the hope that maybe, just maybe, this unexpected contact could lead to something beautiful, something that could heal the wounds of the past and finally bring us together. The weight of silence was immense, but the possibility of breaking it felt even more significant. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across my living room. Darkness settled in, mirroring the growing unease in my heart. Hours bled into each other, marked only by the rhythmic ticking of the clock and the insistent buzzing of my phone, a phantom vibration that promised a message that never came. The initial flicker of hope began to dim, replaced by a cold, creeping dread. What if he'd changed his mind? What if he'd sent the message on a whim, a fleeting impulse that he'd already regretted? The thought sent a shiver down my spine. Perhaps this wasn't a bridge to reconciliation, but a cruel trick of fate. A fleeting glimpse of hope dashed against the rocks of reality. The silence stretched, becoming a vast, echoing void that threatened to swallow me whole. My mind, once a whirlwind of hopeful anticipation, now spun with a multitude of negative interpretations. Had I misread the situation? Was he testing me? Or worse, was something wrong? The possibilities, each more agonizing than the last, paraded through my thoughts, creating a symphony of fear. Sleep evaded me. I tossed and turned, the image of Daniel's face, young, then older, etched with lines of worry I hadn't noticed before, haunting my dreams. Had I failed him? Had my stubbornness, my pride, driven him away? The questions gnawed at me, relentless and unforgiving. The silence wasn't just the absence of sound, it was the deafening roar of unanswered questions, of regrets, of a lifetime of missed opportunities. The weight of it pressed down on me. Crushing the fragile hope that had so briefly bloomed, I was left alone, adrift in a sea of uncertainty, the rising tide of unease threatening to pull me under. The darkness outside mirrored the darkness within, a chilling reflection of my growing despair. The morning arrived, grey and overcast, mirroring the unsettled state of my mind. I checked my phone, half expecting, half dreading to find nothing, but there it was. A missed call. One solitary missed call from an unknown number. My heart skipped a beat. It was him, I knew it. I didn't call back. The fear of rejection, of another dashed hope, paralyzed me. I waited, watching the minutes tick by, each one an agonizing reminder of the silence that still hung between us. Then, another missed call. 2. My breath hitched in my throat. This wasn't an accident. This was deliberate. He was trying to reach me. The suspense was almost unbearable. My hand trembled as I picked up the phone, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. Another missed call. 3. The tension was a tight coil in my stomach, threatening to unravel. It was as if each missed call was a step closer, a footfall echoing in the empty space between us. Each ring, a silent plea, a desperate attempt to bridge the chasm of years. The numbers mounted. 4, 5, 6. My mind raced, trying to decipher the urgency behind these increasingly frantic attempts to connect. Was he in trouble? Was he calling from a hospital? Or was this a sign of something more profound, something he was finally ready to address? The anticipation was a living thing, a creature of anxiety and hope that gnawed at my insides. The silence between the calls was as deafening as the rings themselves, each pause amplifying the suspense, building an unbearable tension that threatened to consume me. The phone psyche, once a symbol of separation, now seemed to be the only lifeline to a possible reconciliation. Each missed call was a step closer, The suspense was almost too much to bear. Then, it happened. I picked up my phone, expecting perhaps a dozen more missed calls, a continuation of the rising tide of anxiety. Instead, I was hit with a wave of such overwhelming magnitude that it nearly knocked me off my feet. 99 missed calls. The number stared back at me, a stark, unforgiving testament to the urgency of the situation. My breath caught in my throat, my heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat of fear and apprehension. 99 missed calls. It was impossible to ignore. The sheer volume of them was almost surreal, a relentless assault on my senses. The weight of it pressed down on me, crushing the last vestiges of my carefully constructed composure. Shock gave way to a deep, gnawing concern. What could possibly have caused such an outpouring of desperate attempts to reach me? Was he in danger? Had something terrible happened? The possibilities, dark and terrifying, crowded my mind, pushing aside all other thoughts. My hands trembled as I fumbled for my glasses, my vision blurring in a desperate attempt to focus on the screen, to make sense of the chaos. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced through my apprehension. This wasn't a game. This was real. This was a cry for help, a desperate plea that couldn't be ignored. The numbers, once a source of mounting tension, now represented a desperate need for connection, a bridge across the years of silence. The weight of those 99 missed calls pressed down on me, heavier than any physical burden I'd ever known. I had to call back. I had to know. The fear was immense, but the urgency to act was even greater. The 99 missed calls weren't just numbers. They were a lifeline. My hand shook as I dialed the number. Hope, fragile and tentative, flickered within me, battling against the darker emotions that still clung to the edges of my consciousness. Would he answer? Would this be the end of the silence, the beginning of a new chapter? Or would I be met with another crushing disappointment? The phone rang, each ring echoing the tumultuous emotions swirling within me. Anger flared, anger at myself, at the years of silence and at the missed opportunities. How could I have let things get so far out of hand? The regret was a bitter pill, hard to swallow. Then, confusion. Why now? Why after all this time? What had prompted this sudden, desperate attempt to reconnect? Concern, a heavy cloak of worry, settled over me, smothering the other emotions. Was he all right? Was he hurt? The images that flooded my mind were unsettling. A car accident, a hospital bed, a face etched with pain. My breath caught in my throat. I had to know. The call was answered, and a voice, hesitant and strained, filled my ear. It was him. The years melted away, replaced by a raw, immediate connection, a shared history rekindled by an urgent need for communication. The cascade of emotions threatened to overwhelm me. Relief washed over me, a tidal wave of emotion that threatened to drown me in its wake. The years of silence were about to be broken, and the weight of my regrets began to lift. I was finally ready to face him, to face myself, and to begin the long, arduous journey of reconciliation. The memory hit me like a physical blow, a sharp jab to the chest that stole the breath from my lungs. It was Daniel's graduation day. He'd worked so hard, sacrificed so much, and he'd finally done it. He'd earned his degree, a testament to his intelligence and perseverance. I should have been bursting with pride, overflowing with joy. Instead, I found myself consumed by a petty argument, a ridiculous squabble over his choice of career path. He wanted to be an artist, a painter. I, in my infinite wisdom, saw it as a frivolous pursuit, a waste of his potential. I envisioned a stable, respectable career, law, medicine, engineering, anything but art. I didn't understand his passion, his dedication. I saw only instability and uncertainty. My words, sharp and critical, sliced through the air, cutting him to the quick. I remember the hurt in his eyes, the way he flinched at my harsh pronouncements. The graduation ceremony blurred into a haze of awkward smiles and forced pleasantries. The joy of the occasion was tainted by the bitter taste of our argument, the unspoken tension that hung heavy in the air between us. He received his diploma, his face a mask of polite indifference. There was no hug, no celebratory embrace, just a curt nod, a strained smile, and a hasty goodbye. That was the last time we spoke for years. Later, as I sat alone in the quiet of my study, the weight of my words settled upon me, heavy and suffocating. I realized the depth of my mistake, the irreparable damage I'd inflicted. My stubbornness, my ingrained belief in my own superiority, had cost me something invaluable. My son's respect, his love. The silence that followed was a constant, agonizing reminder of my failure as a father. The memory of that day, the weight of my regret, has haunted me ever since. It was the seed of our estrangement, a seed that grew into a vast, unforgiving desert. It wasn't just about the art, though that was the catalyst. It was about a lifetime of unspoken expectations, of a father's rigid definition of success clashing with a son's yearning for self-expression. I'd always envisioned a certain path for Daniel, a prestigious career, a comfortable life, a family built on the foundation of stability and security. His desire to pursue art felt like a rejection of everything I'd ever worked for, everything I'd ever believed in. He tried to explain, to articulate his passion, the way the colors flowed, the stories they told, but my words cut him off, my ingrained prejudices silencing his voice. I spoke of practicality, of responsibility, of the need to earn a living. I didn't see the fire in his eyes, the unwavering belief in his own talent. I saw only risk, instability, and the potential for disappointment. He argued back, his voice rising with frustration. He spoke of his dreams, his aspirations, the need to follow his heart. He accused me of not understanding him, of never truly seeing him for who he was, not just the son who was expected to follow in his father's footsteps. His words, though laced with anger, carried the weight of years of unspoken resentment, of a son's yearning for his father's approval. The argument escalated, fueled by years of unspoken tensions and simmering resentments. Words were thrown like stones, each one a painful blow. We both said things we couldn't take back, things that cut deeper than any physical wound. The air crackled with unspoken accusations, the years of subtle misunderstandings finally erupting into an open conflict. It was a turning point, a moment that irrevocably altered the course of our relationship, leaving a chasm of silence in its wake. The argument wasn't just a disagreement, it was a seismic shift, a fracture in our bond that left us both wounded and estranged. The years stretched out before me, a vast and unforgiving landscape of silence. Days bled into weeks, weeks into months, months into years. The silence wasn't just the absence of sound, it was a tangible presence, a heavy weight pressing down on my chest, a constant reminder of the chasm that had opened up between us. It was a silence filled with regret, with unspoken words, with the ghosts of what could have been. Holidays became muted affairs, devoid of the warmth and laughter that once filled our home. Family gatherings were incomplete, the empty chair a stark reminder of our fractured relationship. I tried to fill the void, to distract myself from the aching emptiness, but the silence persisted, a relentless companion. I watched him grow up from afar, glimpses of his life appearing in the occasional newspaper article or a fleeting social media update. His successes, his struggles, his life unfolding without me. The pride I felt was mingled with a deep sense of loss, a constant gnawing at my conscience. I knew I'd missed out on so much: birthdays, graduations, milestones that should have been shared, celebrated together. The distance between us wasn't just geographical, it was emotional. A vast and impassable gulf of unspoken resentments and unhealed wounds. The silence was a constant, painful reminder of my mistakes, of the opportunities lost, of the bond severed by my own stubbornness and pride. Each passing year only deepened the silence, solidifying the distance, making the possibility of reconciliation seem increasingly remote. It was a prison of my own making, a self-imposed exile from the warmth of family. The silence was heavy, a burden I carried alone. The resentment lingered, a persistent ache in my soul. It wasn't just his anger, it was my own unspoken regrets that gnawed at me. I carried the weight of my inflexibility, my inability to see beyond my own preconceived notions of success. I'd judged his dreams, dismissed his passions, and in doing so I'd pushed him away, The silence was a constant reminder of my failure as a father, but I also understood his anger, his resentment. He'd felt misunderstood, unseen, his aspirations dismissed as childish fantasies. He'd yearned for my approval, for my understanding, for the acceptance that I had so readily withheld. His silence, I now realized, was as much a cry for help as it was an expression of anger and disappointment. The years had etched lines of worry onto his face, lines that mirrored my own. The estrangement had left its mark on both of us, a visible scar on our shared history. His success, though undeniable, felt incomplete, lacking the validation he'd craved from the one person who should have been his greatest supporter. He'd built a life, a career, a family of his own, but a part of him remained wounded, a part of him still yearning for the father he never truly had. My own life had been a quiet existence, filled with a persistent emptiness that no amount of material success could fill. The silence had become a constant companion, a stark reminder of the love lost, the bond broken. The missed opportunities weighed heavily upon me, the unsaid words echoing in the empty spaces of my life. The resentment wasn't a singular emotion. It was a complex tapestry of guilt, regret, and a deep, aching longing for the son I'd pushed away. The years had passed, but the wounds remained open, raw, and vulnerable. There were moments, fleeting chances, opportunities lost in the fog of pride and stubbornness, Christmas cards left unopened, birthday calls unanswered, invitations to family gatherings ignored. Each missed connection was a tiny crack in the foundation of our relationship, a subtle erosion that widened the chasm between us. I remember seeing his name in the alumni magazine, a successful artist featured in a prominent gallery. A wave of pride washed over me, quickly followed by a pang of regret. I should have called, offered my congratulations, but the silence held firm. I envisioned countless scenarios where I could have reached out, extended an olive branch, but fear and pride held me back. The fear of rejection, the fear of admitting my own failings, kept me trapped in the confines of my silence. I clung to my resentment, my anger, my belief that he should be the one to make the first move. I told myself it was a matter of principle, of preserving my dignity. But in truth, it was a mask for my own fear and insecurity. He could have reached out too, I know. A simple phone call, a brief email, a gesture of reconciliation. But the hurt, the disappointment, the years of unspoken resentment had built an invisible wall between us, a barrier that seemed impossible to overcome. His silence was as much a product of his own hurt and anger as it was a reflection of my own failings. We were both trapped, caught in a cycle of unspoken resentments and missed opportunities. The years spun by, each one adding another layer of regret to the already heavy burden we carried. The missed opportunities weren't isolated incidents. They were the cumulative effect of years of silence, of unspoken feelings, of a relationship slowly eroding under the weight of our stubbornness. They were the building blocks of the vast empty space that separated us, a space that seemed insurmountable. Yet now, with the fragile hope of reconciliation, held the potential for something new. The weight of those missed moments hangs heavy, a constant reminder of the fragility of family bonds. The core of our conflict wasn't just about his career choice, it was about a fundamental clash of values, a difference in perspectives that had never been truly addressed. My rigid adherence to tradition, to the security of a well-defined path, had blinded me to his passion, his creativity, his unique vision of the world. I'd failed to understand his need for self-expression, for the freedom to pursue his own dreams, regardless of the perceived risks. He, in turn, felt misunderstood, stifled by my expectations, his voice silenced by my unwavering belief in my own version of success. He hadn't just resented my disapproval. He felt unseen, unheard, his individuality suppressed under the weight of my expectations. The years of silence hadn't erased these fundamental differences. They had merely allowed them to fester, to deepen, to become entrenched in the fabric of our relationship. The unresolved issues weren't isolated events. They were interconnected threads weaving a complex tapestry of misunderstanding and resentment. They were the unspoken words, the unhealed wounds, the lingering doubts that threatened to undermine any attempt at reconciliation. The weight of these unresolved issues loomed large, casting a long shadow over our tentative steps towards healing. Each conversation, each interaction was fraught with the potential for these old wounds to reopen, to derail our fragile progress. The challenge wasn't simply to forgive and forget. It was to confront these deeply rooted issues, to understand each other's perspectives, to find a way to bridge the chasm created by years of unspoken resentment and miscommunication. It was a daunting task, a journey fraught with potential pitfalls, but one that held the promise of a stronger, more meaningful relationship, built on mutual understanding and respect. The weight of the past hung heavy, but the possibility of a brighter future remained a flickering flame, a source of hope in the face of uncertainty. And so, the memories fade, the echoes of the past receding but not disappearing entirely. The weight of those years, the burden of unspoken words, the sting of regret, it all remains. A subtle undercurrent in the present. The present, however, feels different. The air is lighter, the silence less oppressive. The phone sits beside me, a lifeline to a connection I almost lost forever. The past continues to cast its long shadow, but it no longer eclipses the present. I can feel the ghosts of those missed opportunities, the echoes of those hurtful words, but they are now tempered by a fragile hope, a tentative belief in the possibility of healing. The years have etched their mark on my face, on my heart, but they have also taught me the profound value of family, of connection, of the enduring power of love. This isn't a simple erasure of the past. It's a recognition of its weight, its influence, its lasting impact. It's an acknowledgement of the mistakes made, the opportunities lost, the pain inflicted, but it's also a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the capacity for forgiveness, the enduring power of hope. The memories linger, but they no longer define me. They are a part of my story, a chapter that has shaped me, but it's not the final chapter. This new chapter, this tentative step towards reconciliation, is filled with both excitement and trepidation. The future remains uncertain, but I'm no longer consumed by the ghosts of the past. I'm ready to face the present, to embrace the uncertainty, and to move forward, one hesitant step at a time, towards a future where the silence is replaced by the sound of laughter, of shared memories, of a family finally reunited. The past is never truly gone, but its hold on my heart is loosening, allowing space for a new beginning. My hands trembled as I dialed the number, a familiar yet foreign sequence of digits. Each ring felt like a hammer blow against my chest, a mixture of anticipation and dread churning within me. The voicemail message felt like a physical barrier, a stark reminder of the years of silence that separated us. I left a message, my voice shaky, my words carefully chosen, a mixture of apology, regret, and a desperate plea for connection. Days turned into a blur of anxious waiting, punctuated by the compulsive checking of my phone. Each notification, each vibration sent a jolt of adrenaline through my system. Was it him? Was this the moment? The silence stretched on, amplifying my anxieties, fueling the doubts that gnawed at the edges of my hope. Then came the texts, short, hesitant messages, like tentative steps across a chasm. My fingers flew across the keyboard, crafting responses, each word weighed carefully, each sentence infused with a lifetime of unspoken emotions. The exchange was halting, awkward, yet filled with a fragile sense of connection, a tentative bridge across the years of separation. I tried emailing him, composing lengthy messages filled with apologies and explanations, a desperate attempt to convey the depth of my regret, the sincerity of my desire for reconciliation. Each email felt like a vulnerable exposure of my soul, a risk I felt compelled to take, a chance I couldn't afford to miss. The response, when it came, was slow, cautious, but it came. And in that cautious response, I found a glimmer of hope, a fragile spark that rekindled a long-dormant flame. The digital world became a battlefield of emotions, a space where years of silence were slowly, tentatively, replaced by words. Each message was a step, each response a promise, each word a fragile building block in the construction of a fractured relationship. His response wasn't a torrent of emotion. It was a carefully measured trickle, a hesitant stream of words that reflected the cautious optimism of a man carrying the weight of years of silence. It wasn't warm, not yet, but it wasn't cold either. It was measured. Each word was deliberate, each sentence carefully constructed, reflecting the fragility of this nascent connection. There was a distance in his words, a lingering echo of the hurt and resentment that had separated us for so long. But beneath the surface, I sensed a flicker of something else, a hesitant curiosity, a tentative willingness to explore the possibility of reconciliation. It was in the spaces between the words, in the pauses, in the careful phrasing, that I detected a glimmer of hope. He acknowledged my apology, but his acceptance wasn't effusive. It was restrained, cautious, as if he was testing the waters, unsure of whether this fragile bridge would hold. He didn't delve into the past, didn't rehash old arguments, didn't unleash the pent-up anger I'd anticipated. Instead, his response was focused on the present, on the tentative steps we were taking towards a future that was still uncertain. There was a vulnerability in his words, a hesitant willingness to let down his guard, to risk further hurt by engaging in this delicate dance of reconciliation. It was a tentative peace offering, a gesture of cautious optimism, an invitation to continue the conversation, to explore the possibility of healing. The emotional undercurrents were complex, a subtle interplay of regret, hope, fear, and a cautious willingness to move forward. It was a response that mirrored the fragility of our situation, a reflection of the delicate balance between the past and the future. It was a beginning, nothing more, nothing less. Our initial conversations were like navigating a minefield, each word a potential explosive device. The air crackled with unspoken accusations, with years of pent-up resentment. We circled each other cautiously, tentatively probing the depths of our wounds, avoiding direct confrontation, yet unable to ignore the elephant in the room, the years of silence, the unspoken grievances. Trying to articulate my feelings was like trying to grasp smoke. Words failed me, emotions overwhelmed me, and the simple act of expressing regret felt monumental, a Herculean task. He, too, struggled, his words halting, his tone hesitant, his emotions carefully guarded. We were two ships passing in the night, close enough to see each other's lights, yet unable to bridge the distance between us. The silence between our words was often more profound than the words themselves, a stark reminder of the chasm that had separated us for so long. Yet in those silences, in those moments of awkwardness, there was also a growing sense of understanding, a recognition of shared pain, a common desire for resolution. We stumbled, we faltered, we sometimes veered off course, reopening old wounds, reigniting old arguments. But each time we stumbled, we picked ourselves up, dusted ourselves off, and tried again. It wasn't easy, it wasn't pretty, but it was progress. We were learning to communicate again, to listen, to understand, to forgive. The path to reconciliation was not a straight line. It was a winding road, fraught with challenges, but leading, I hoped, towards a brighter future. Unpacking the past wasn't a single event. It was a gradual, painstaking process, like meticulously disassembling a complex machine, piece by painstaking piece. We started with the smaller issues, the minor misunderstandings, the easily resolved conflicts. These served as warm-up exercises, preparing us for the more difficult conversations that lay ahead. Then came the heavier stuff, the things we had avoided for years, the unspoken resentments, the lingering hurts. It was a slow, careful excavation, unearthing buried emotions, confronting painful memories. Each revelation was like turning over a stone, exposing the writhing creatures of regret and misunderstanding that had festered beneath the surface for so long. We talked about my criticism of his chosen career, the harsh words that had cut him so deeply. I confessed my own insecurities, my fear of failure, my misguided attempt to impose my own dreams on him. He, in turn, shared his feelings of disappointment, of being misunderstood, of feeling stifled by my expectations. The conversation wasn't easy. There were tears, there were silences, there were moments of intense emotional vulnerability. But there was also a growing sense of understanding, a shared recognition of the mistakes we had made, the pain we had inflicted on each other. It wasn't about assigning blame. It was about acknowledging our shared responsibility, our shared contribution to the rift that had separated us. As we delved deeper, we discovered a complex tapestry of misunderstandings, of misinterpretations, of unmet needs. We uncovered the root causes of our conflict, the deep-seated insecurities and fears that had fueled our arguments. It was a process of self-discovery as much as it was a process of reconciliation. We were not only healing our relationship, we were healing ourselves. The past, once a heavy burden, began to feel lighter, less oppressive, less defined by anger and more defined by understanding. The weight of apologies hung heavy in the air, a palpable presence between us. My apologies weren't easy to utter. They were born of deep regret, of a lifetime of unspoken remorse. They were heartfelt, genuine, and laden with the weight of years of silence and missed opportunities. Each apology felt like a confession, a stripping bare of my soul, an admission of my failings as a father. His apologies were different, more measured, more cautious. They weren't a torrent of emotion, but a carefully chosen stream of words, reflecting the guarded nature of his heart. Yet, the sincerity was undeniable, a testament to his willingness to confront the past and move forward. The exchange of apologies wasn't a single event. It was an ongoing process, a repeated acknowledgement of our shared responsibility in the breakdown of our relationship. Each apology was a step towards healing, a recognition of the hurt we had inflicted on each other, a commitment to building a better future. The emotional impact of those apologies was profound. For me, uttering those words was a release, a shedding of the heavy burden of guilt and regret that had weighed me down for so long. It was a cathartic experience, a cleansing of the soul. For him, receiving those apologies seemed to lift a weight from his shoulders, allowing him to finally let go of the anger and resentment that had consumed him for so many years. It was a moment of profound release, a shared understanding of the pain we had both endured. The act of apologizing and accepting apologies transcended mere words. It was an act of profound emotional vulnerability, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a recognition of our shared humanity. It was a turning point in our relationship, a pivotal moment that paved the way for genuine reconciliation and the possibility of a stronger, healthier bond. The air, once thick with unspoken resentments, began to clear, allowing a fragile sense of hope to bloom. Acceptance and forgiveness weren't instantaneous. They were a gradual process, a slow unfolding of understanding and empathy. It wasn't a simple matter of saying, "I forgive you," and moving on. There were still moments of anger, of frustration, of lingering resentment. Old habits die hard, and years of accumulated hurt don't vanish overnight. But alongside the anger and frustration, there was a growing sense of acceptance, a recognition that we were both flawed, that we had both made mistakes. We acknowledged our shared responsibility for the rift that had separated us, recognizing that neither of us was entirely blameless. This shared responsibility was crucial. It shifted the focus from assigning blame to understanding and healing. Forgiveness, too, wasn't a single act but a continuous process, a gradual letting go of the anger and resentment that had held us captive for so long. It wasn't about condoning our past actions. It was about releasing the bitterness and allowing ourselves to move forward. It was a conscious decision to choose healing over bitterness, to prioritize our relationship over our hurt feelings. The path to acceptance and forgiveness wasn't always smooth. There were setbacks, moments of doubt, times when the old wounds threatened to reopen. But each time we stumbled, we picked ourselves up, reaffirmed our commitment to healing, and continued on our journey. The process itself became a testament to the strength of our bond, a testament to our willingness to fight for a future together. The potential for healing and growth became increasingly apparent, a beacon guiding us through the darkness. It was a journey that transformed not only our relationship, but also our understanding of ourselves. Truly understanding each other required more than just words. It demanded empathy, a willingness to step into each other's shoes, to see the world through the lens of another's experience. It meant acknowledging the validity of his feelings, even when they differed from my own, and accepting that his perspective, shaped by his unique life journey, was just as valid as mine. This wasn't about agreeing on everything. It was about respecting our differences and appreciating the richness that those differences brought to our relationship. We spent hours talking, sharing memories, recounting experiences, and exploring the events that had shaped our lives. We discussed his struggles as a young artist, the challenges he faced in pursuing his dreams, and the frustrations he felt when his aspirations clashed with my expectations. I, in turn, shared my own fears and insecurities, my anxieties about his future, and the regrets I carried about my own past choices. It was a journey of self-discovery as much as it was a journey of understanding each other. Through these conversations, the years of misunderstanding began to melt away, replaced by a growing sense of connection, a shared understanding of the forces that had shaped our lives and our relationship. The empathy and compassion that blossomed between us became the foundation for a renewed bond, a bond strengthened by the shared experience of vulnerability and the mutual effort required to overcome past hurts. It was a profound realization that our differences weren't insurmountable barriers. Rather, they were the unique threads that wove together the rich tapestry of our relationship. The process was transformative, shaping not only our relationship, but ourselves. Rebuilding our relationship felt like constructing a bridge across a chasm, one carefully placed stone at a time. It began with small gestures, seemingly insignificant acts that held profound meaning. A phone call, not just to talk, but to check in, to see how he was doing. A simple text message expressing care and concern. These were the building blocks of our new foundation, the small acts of kindness that nourished a fragile hope. Then came the shared experiences, the moments we created together that helped to rewrite our story. We started with small outings, a walk in the park, a meal at his favorite restaurant, a quiet evening at home. These weren't grand gestures, but intimate moments that allowed us to reconnect on a deeper level, to create new memories that would eventually overshadow the painful ones of the past. The renewed communication was perhaps the most significant aspect of this rebuilding process. We talked not just about the past, but about the present, about our hopes and dreams for the future. We shared our anxieties and our joys, our fears and our aspirations. The conversations flowed more easily now, less burdened by the weight of unspoken resentments. We laughed together, we cried together, and in those shared moments of vulnerability, our bond strengthened. These small steps, these seemingly insignificant gestures, were the foundation upon which we rebuilt our relationship. They were the threads that wove together a new tapestry of understanding, forgiveness, and love. It was a slow, painstaking process, but with each shared moment, each act of kindness, each heartfelt conversation, the chasm between us narrowed, and the bridge we were building grew stronger, more resilient, and more capable of withstanding the storms that inevitably lie ahead. The journey was far from over, but we were finally on the path to healing, a path paved with shared experiences and renewed communication. Reconciliation isn't a destination, it's a journey, a long and winding road with its share of bumps and detours. We've made significant progress, but the road ahead remains long and uncertain. There will be challenges, moments when old wounds threaten to reopen, times when the weight of the past threatens to overwhelm us. The scars of our estrangement won't disappear overnight. They'll remain a reminder of the pain we both endured. We both know that maintaining this newfound connection will require ongoing effort, constant vigilance, and a willingness to confront any new challenges that arise. There will be times when we disagree, times when our old patterns threaten to resurface. The key will be our ability to communicate openly and honestly, to address our differences with empathy and understanding, and to approach conflicts with a commitment to finding common ground. It will demand patience and understanding, and a continued willingness to forgive and to be forgiven. The future is not a guaranteed utopia. It's a space filled with both hope and uncertainty. There's no magic formula for ensuring a seamless, conflict-free relationship. But what we do have is a renewed commitment to each other, a shared desire to nurture this fragile bond, and to create a future where our love and respect for one another outweigh the hurts of the past. It's a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a journey of healing and growth that will continue to unfold, one day at a time. The journey continues, and it's a journey we're committed to walking together. Even now, with the bridge tentatively built, some uncertainties linger. Will we always be able to navigate the complexities of our relationship? Will old wounds resurface, threatening to unravel the progress we've made? The weight of the past, though lighter, still casts a shadow, a constant reminder of the damage inflicted and the years lost. Can we truly erase the memories of those silent, painful years? Can we fully bridge the gap created by unspoken words and missed opportunities? The fear of relapse, of returning to the painful silence, remains a subtle undercurrent in our interactions. It's a fear that both of us acknowledge, a shadow that hangs over our newfound connection. It's not a question of if, but when we will face another challenge, another moment of friction, another test of our commitment to this fragile peace. Will we be strong enough to weather the storms that lie ahead? There are also questions about the future, about the shape of our relationship in the years to come. Will we ever fully regain the closeness we once shared? Will the trust be rebuilt completely? Will we find a way to coexist peacefully, respecting our differences, while still cherishing the bond of father and son? These questions remain unanswered, unresolved tensions that add a layer of complexity to our journey. The path ahead is still unclear, but we walk it together, hand in hand, facing the uncertainties with a shared hope that our newfound connection will endure. The future remains unwritten, a canvas upon which we will paint our new story, one brushstroke at a time. Despite the lingering uncertainties, a glimmer of hope shines through. It's a fragile hope, easily extinguished, yet powerful enough to sustain us through the difficult moments. This hope is rooted in the realization that we are both committed to this reconciliation, that we both see the value in rebuilding our relationship, in creating a future where we can share joy and support each other through life's challenges. This renewed connection feels different, stronger somehow, forged in the crucible of our shared pain and the arduous process of healing. The silences are less heavy now, filled with a quiet understanding that transcends words. Our conversations, though sometimes strained, are infused with a newfound respect and appreciation for each other's perspectives. We are learning to communicate not just with words, but with empathy, with a willingness to see the world through each other's eyes. The potential for a stronger, more meaningful relationship is palpable. It's a relationship built not on blind obedience or unspoken expectations, but on mutual respect, shared experiences, and a genuine desire to understand and support each other. It's a testament to our resilience, our capacity for growth, and our unwavering belief in the power of love to overcome even the deepest wounds. This newfound bond is not just a repair of the old. It's the creation of something new, something stronger, something more resilient. The future holds both challenges and promises, but we face them together, with a renewed sense of hope and a commitment to building a future filled with love, understanding, and unwavering support. The journey continues, and with each step, the glimmer of hope grows brighter. The power of reconciliation is profound, a transformative force that has reshaped both my life and my son's. It's not merely the mending of a broken bond, it's a rebirth, a shedding of old resentments, and the embracing of a new understanding. The weight of unspoken words, of missed opportunities, of years lost to silence, has begun to lift, replaced by a sense of peace and a renewed appreciation for the preciousness of family. Forgiveness, that elusive and often painful process, has been at the heart of our reconciliation. It wasn't a single act, but a gradual unfolding, a conscious choice made day after day to let go of the anger, the bitterness, the hurt. It required acknowledging our shared responsibility for the rift, accepting our flaws, and choosing healing over bitterness. It's a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, our capacity for empathy, and our shared desire to move forward. The understanding that has blossomed between us is unlike anything I've ever experienced. It's a deeper, more nuanced understanding that goes beyond simple agreement. It's an acceptance of our differences, a respect for each other's perspectives, and a willingness to see the world through each other's eyes. It's a bond forged not in blind obedience or unspoken expectations, but in mutual respect, shared experiences, and a genuine desire to support each other through life's joys and sorrows. This journey of reconciliation has been a journey of self-discovery, a process of growth and healing that has enriched both our lives immeasurably. The transformation is not complete, but the progress is undeniable, a testament to the power of forgiveness, understanding, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. So, here we stand, at a crossroads. The path behind us is etched with the scars of conflict, the regrets of silence, the pain of estrangement. The path ahead, however, remains unwritten, a blank canvas upon which we will paint a new chapter in our story. Will it be a masterpiece, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the power of forgiveness, or will the old patterns resurface, threatening to undo the progress we've made? The journey of reconciliation is not a straight line. It's a winding road, filled with unexpected twists and turns. There will be days when the weight of the past feels overwhelming, days when the challenges seem insurmountable. But there will also be days filled with laughter, shared moments of joy, and a profound sense of connection that transcends the hurts of the past. The future is not a guaranteed utopia. It's a space filled with both hope and uncertainty. The question isn't whether we will stumble, it's how we will rise each time we fall. Will we choose to nurture this fragile bond, to water the seeds of hope we have planted, or will we allow the weeds of doubt and resentment to choke the life out of our renewed connection? The answer, I believe, lies not in a single moment, but in the cumulative choices we make, day after day, year after year. It's a journey we are committed to walking together, a journey that will define not only our relationship, but also who we become as individuals. A new beginning, perhaps, but the future, like the past, remains to be written, and that, I believe, is the most exciting part of all.